Hello, and welcome to Check It Out at EVPL,
a podcast from your local library. I'm your host, Ryan.
And I'm your host, Ellen, and today we're joined by Jamie.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So, this is our Valentine's Day episode.
We were thinking about non-traditional gifts that you've received or that you would like to receive for Valentine's Day. Ryan, you go first.
I am very non-traditional. I actually don't even give gifts on the day itself. It's always like a week before or after because I'm lazy, but also I like to say, it's more special that way. That's kind of my way of going it. So
I do that too, but mine is because I'm too impatient to wait. Once the gift shows up, I just have to hand it over like right now.
Yeah, usually it's before.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a day or two after, shipping and stuff like that. Because you want to get the right thing, not just anything, the right thing for the person.
We don't really do much on Valentine's Day, basically because our anniversary is literally 1 week and 1 day after.
So it's always just much.
We make a bigger deal of our anniversary than Valentine's Day because of that. So,
well, this year I went ahead and got my wife a 3x5 print of a Van Gogh painting that she loves, the Starry Night.
Oh yeah.
And she was very excited. Many expletives were said. So I knew I got it right. I got it right this year.
That's how you know.
Yeah.
My husband has recently switched from working in the field, like on site, different places, to working at a desk. So I got him a bunch of push pins that look like narwhals.
Oh,
that's
excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah, just something small and simple that he needed.
And he's going to like, right?
Oh, yeah.
If I was going to get a non-traditional gift, a friend of mine recently was given a yarn bouquet because she's into knitting and all things fiber. And I have recently forayed into the world of learning to spin yarn. So right now, a fiber bouquet of different kinds of spinning fiber that I could try out on my wheel would be exactly what I wanted.
Excellent. Sounds like you could do a lot with that.
I could do a lot with that. I've actually heard of these classes called sheep to shawl.
Ooh.
Where they literally take you and you get the fleece from a freshly sheared sheep.
Mm-hmm.
And they take you through the process of cleaning it and carding it and possibly dyeing it and spinning it and then knitting it into a shawl.
The only thing that sounds more fun to me is actually getting to shear the sheep myself.
I mean, as far as I know, they let you do that, but I don't think I would be down for that because all it would take is one little nick of the sheep and the sheep showing any distress and I would be very upset.
Yeah, I'm out.
Okay, you said you don't really celebrate Valentine's Day since you're married and your anniversary's too close.
Right.
Before you were married, did you ever get like a really good Valentine's Day gift?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, nothing super non-traditional.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got a bouquet of the red and silver Hershey Kisses from my fiance at the time because he's a complete chocoholic. And so, and he will, the smallest hill he will die on would be Hershey.
Mm.
It's got to be Hershey. So that was probably, and I think it was, it was very, very traditional in that sense. It was the mug with the hearts and the chocolates. And I mean, I liked it. It was fun, but.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong with chocolate as a gift.
I'm not the chocoholic he is, to be fair. So, but it worked, it was really, I was just touched that we got to, enjoy the whole dating and then engaged and then married thing. And so, but as we've grown as people, we have more specific interests. So it's when you get, I think, a non-traditional gift, it shows that the person knows you.
Yeah.
They know what's
much
meaningful to you, what you like, and things of that nature. So, a non-traditional gift is fun because it's a reflection of the depth of your relationship.
Yeah.
Or it could show the lack thereof. I don't know.
So has your husband, the chocoholic, has he gotten to take a tour of the Hershey plant or anything like that?
He and I live states apart. I know that when he was in high school, because he grew up around Pennsylvania, so naturally, I think there's a theme park, a Hershey theme park.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I know that he's been there and got to go through the factory and where they produce like the Hershey Kisses and stuff. And do you know why Hershey Kisses are called Kisses?
Not a clue.
Because when the machine that comes down and does that little dollop of chocolate on the belt, it looks like it's kissing the belt.
Huh.
Okay.
I did
Little
not
less-
know that's where the name came from.
That is where it came from.
A little less romantic. But
There's a kiss involved, you know.
it's two machines, you know.
You know.
Well, you talked about your passions with the spinning wheel and
Right.
everything. That kind of segues into our Meg segment today, which is passions and hobbies throughout our life. And I was thinking about starting with Ellen. Do you have a passion or a hobby that as a child you kind of either grew out eventually or it developed into something else?
So when I was really little, I did dance. I think I started when I was like 3. And I did tap dance and then like junior gymnastics where it's like, oh, we were so cool. We could do somersaults, you guys.
They're not flips, they're somersaults.
They're somersaults. Because, again, we were like 3.
Right.
And after that, I did fall out of dancing for a while, but then I got back into it in college and I actually took up like swing and ballroom dancing.
Wow.
That's exciting.
And where I lived in Michigan, it was like an hour away from Grand Rapids, which is where the country's largest swing dancing group is.
Wow.
And every week, like at least once a week, sometimes twice, they host dances to the public that are like really cheap to get into. And you can go and dance there. And a lot of times they have like live big brass music and stuff like that. And actually, I helped break the world record for the world's largest swing dance.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
Is that your icebreaker?
No, that's not.
It should be, or like an elevator speech or something.
Yeah, I feel like that's a little too much to like ice break. I don't want that much attention. But yeah, the record has since been broken by some other group, but then I know the Grand Rapids Original Swing Society, which yes, they abbreviate their name to GROSS.
Okay.
So if you're ever in Michigan, check out the GROSS dancing group.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They broke it a second time, but I was not there for the second time, and I don't know where the record stands now.
Okay.
All right. Okay. How about you, Jamie?
When I was growing up, I was not that crafty. You know, I was an utter tomboy. We're talking, you know, tree climbing, mud ball fights. We were famous. We had a recipe for the perfect mud for a mud ball fight. And we couldn't wait for a nice rain. So there'd be mud and we'd create these mounds of, you know, forget snowball fights. This was Texas, okay? There was not going to be any snowball fights.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You know, so we would do that in the summer, me and my cousins, and we would do that. But I did have a very crafty aunt. And as I've grown and I've started having interest in crafts, I think of her a lot because she could just do so many things. She was very much into ceramic painting and did a lot of very artistic painting on ceramics. I have inherited some of those pieces, you know, that I have at home now. And she did a lot of things that I don't think I appreciated at the time. She had a kiln and she would take old Coke bottles and Sprite bottles and stretch them into these really weird shapes and just as a creative artistic piece, you know. And so as I've gotten older and I started doing things like dyeing yarn and learning to spin, and I do all the kind of outside. She also tried to start a little bird sanctuary where she had these really unique birds. And she would have little placards of the different plants and flowers and birds that she kept, and had peacocks, you know, roaming around. And I'm like, I don't think I realized it at the time because that was just what Aunt Allie was like. But now I'm like, oh, I want to grow up and be like her.
Yes.
With all the weird crafts and all the strange hobbies.
Very, very nice. So for me, no one really ever guesses this, but as a kid, I was actually obsessed with bird watching.
Oh, really?
For like a solid 3 years, I think. I got a pair.
So you would have been very good friends with Aunt Allie.
Oh, yes.
yes, very good. Because I got a pair of binoculars, like just the cheapest plastic ones you can imagine when I was like 7 or 8. And I just loved them and I went everywhere with them, and I was always looking out for birds. And then eventually I got into Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, and then, you know, they kind of have a route for that a little bit. So that was always my interest when I was part of those organizations. But then I discovered computers, and I didn't go outside anymore. And unfortunately, birds don't live inside my house. So that fell apart.
That was the one thing that I did do that wasn't an outside thing when I was growing up, and was read. I was always a reader. As soon as I was able to read, that's what I was doing. And so if we weren't outside, I was doing that. I remember my one cousin, she enjoyed reading. We both would read, but not as much as I did. And sometimes she would be like, can we go outside now? So that was my one thing that kept me from the outdoors when I was growing up.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a big reader too, which always thrilled my parents because a lot of our vacations were like road trips. And so it's like, yeah, just hand the kids a book. It'll work out.
Yes.
And I think they were simultaneously impressed and annoyed when I outgrew like Jigsaw Jones and Jeannie B. Jones and all those because I started reading them in like less than a day.
Oh, no.
So they're like, oh, no, that's our main road trip material.
I have a similar story. When I was really young, I would go visit my father's side of the family, and we were, again, Texas, second largest state.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a day-long drive to get from where I was living to where my father's side of the family lived. And so when I was little, and not to age myself, but this was back before the days of car seats and things like that and all the fun things that you can have in a car now. Apparently, according to family legend, I was just all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was this huge family sigh of relief when I learned to read and loved to read, because I would sit still in a book for hours while we were in the car. Before that, it was just like, I'm sure I drove them all right up the wall and across the ceiling.
Yeah. I actually have a very similar experience as well with road trips and books, but I have the opposite one of Ellen, where I was reading my brother's hand-me-downs, which my oldest brother is 7 years older.
Uh-huh.
So they were way too complex for me.
No.
So they would just sit there and like with Tolkien at like 8 or 9 years old and just be completely lost and not know what I'm doing. But eventually I learned. I got there.
Yeah.
All right. So if we're continuing the Christmas Carol theme, we did Ghosts of Christmas or Hobbies past. We're on Ghosts of Present Hobbies.
Ghosts of Present Hobbies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
We'll go with it.
Yeah, that sounds better. Okay. So what are you into now, essentially?
I would like to still be into dancing. There is a group here in Evansville, but kind of since COVID, they've not been very active.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to dance virtually.
A little bit. I'm hoping eventually that we can actually bring that into the library. So fingers crossed one day that'll happen. But I actually got into rock climbing as well, because there's a really good rock climbing gym here in town. It's called Vertical Escape. And if you're in the area, I highly recommend you check it out. It's really fun. They're really good at like changing up the patterns on the wall. So like you can't get too set in your ways about anything. And I'm terrible at it. Occasionally I can make it to the top of the wall, and I feel very impressed with myself.
I have been to Vertical Escape once, and I felt like I did okay, but then I watched some people do like the bouldering.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like all their finger strength, and I'm like, okay, I have been put in my place.
I would be on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
On the ground.
There's nice cushions, luckily.
That's
okay,
a good
I got
thing,
to experience
because
that.
I would need them.
But yeah, that's the thing I'm into, still into reading and books. I very much like being kind of a jack of all trades.
Yes.
So anything I can pick up and like learn a little bit about. So let's see what else. I taught myself ukulele in college.
Okay.
That's a thing I can whip out at parties. I'm doing a podcast now, so I learned audio editing for that, which is something that I'm trying to get more of my friends to do other podcasts with me. That has not happened.
Okay. Thank you for sharing, Ellen. How about you, Jamie?
Well, currently, I revived a hobby that I had picked up a few years ago. I have cross-stitching,
Okay.
And I don't do, go figure, I don't do super traditional cross-stitching. I'm currently working on a year-long cross-stitch-along where a Facebook group I'm a part of, it's a Gothic kind of bookshelf. And we're basically doing a temperature. On the bookshelf is a book for every day of the year. And what you do is you track the temperature for that day. And there's a color code. And you're like, oh, it was 50 degrees. So this is the color I'm using for this book.
Oh, that's cool.
And you're going to do like this temperature tracking from January to the end of December. But right now I'm still just setting up the bookshelf. But it's like, it's really fun. It sounds probably tedious to people who don't do it to set it up. And I'm starting to see all the pieces form. Like I completed a plant that's dangling on the top of the bookshelf. There's a little cat that's kind of sitting on the top, and I chose Cheshire cat colors for that cat instead of, a normal cat, because that would just be totally out of place. And so, that is something that I recently revived. I still knit. I love knitting. It's definitely my therapy craft. And so I am working on a blanket for my grandson. I just got that started this weekend. And then, of course, I'm learning to spin. And so my percentage of angry words when I'm trying to spin has decreased from 95% to 60 to 75%. So we're making progress.
That's good. Yeah.
That seems like really good progress.
And so what happens with me when it's a more complex craft, which this is, because you're having to think of multiple things at the same time. It's not unlike having to play the drums. With the drums, most people can do 2 rhythms at the same time, but you add a third or a fourth, and that's where you find out who can be a drummer and who's just not. And so spinning's not unlike that. And so once I get to that point where, progress is being made and the angry words are not being shouted and the feet are not being stamped, then you're going, hey, I might be able to actually make this work. But it usually works like that for me. When it's complex, I will try and fail and try and fail and try and fail and try and fail, and all of a sudden I can do it. So I'm waiting for that moment.
You'll get there, I believe.
I believe. It's helped that this is not the first time that's happened, so I can remind myself, that I usually reach that point, and then suddenly it becomes easier. But there's a quote, and I honestly can't remember who said it, that all things are difficult until they become easy. So I try to remind myself of that while I'm shouting.
Very nice.
Ryan, what about you?
Yeah.
I had mentioned previously, I got into computers at some point, and that is definitely a current thing for me. I think I built my first one when I was 15, and people always are impressed by that, but it's really very easy to build your own computer. You just have a list of parts and then you plug in things together. So I'm pretty much always working on some kind of build. It's been about a year since my last one, so I'm in the planning process for my next one.
Okay, so you're more the physical part of the computer than gaming or programming stuff. I like gaming a lot, but I just dipped my toe into programming as well. So I started with the hardware, but now I'm entering the software part of it because 2 of my good friends decided to take up programming as well. They want to go that career, so through osmosis, I've picked up some, and now I'm starting to get into a little bit by myself, which is exciting, but extremely daunting. Incremental progress is the name of the game with programming and learning a new language.
That's exactly what happens with me. I'll start with something, and I down the rabbit hole. First I'm just wanting to knit. And then I'm tired of doing rectangles and squares. I want to do something more. And then I just add a skill and add a skill and add a skill. And then I go, oh, hey, what if we learned how to dye this? And then, oh, what if we learned how to spin yarn? And it just, one thing leads to the next. I have a friend who weaves, and she's given me some woven towels that she's made. And I'm like, just stay away from her house, because as soon as you look at the loom and how it works, you're going to want to go down that path too. And I really can't invest anymore right now.
Yeah. Which that's actually how the interest in programming got started with me, was that I love board games, and I decided to design my own at one point.
Neat.
And I love game design, but if I wanted ever to get into the video game, turning into a video game, I'm going to have to code something.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to learn it at some point.
Right. I'll say board games and video games are also a hobby of mine. I'm very bad at both of them, but again, do it regardless.
As long as you're having fun, you're not bad at it.
Yeah, it's great.
That leads me to a question that I wanted to put out. What are things that you genuinely enjoy, hobby or otherwise, that you're really bad at, and yet you really still enjoy it?
I'm fantastic and perfect at everything, Jamie. So I'm going to skip this one, obviously.
I'm going to call your wife and find out.
She doesn't know anything. She's always impressed by me.
We'll call her up. It's like, yeah, Ryan is really bad at taking out the garbage.
She's got
a big list.
Mine is playing pool. I am terrible at it, but when I get a chance to play pool, I always just find that so much fun. But I'm terrible at it. Terrible.
I have tried to play pool like 5 separate times, and no matter what, I cannot hit a pool ball with a pool cue. It does not happen.
Does it just shoot off out of the room somewhere?
I don't know what it is, but it never works.
Okay.
And I don't know where I struggle with it, because I've had multiple people try to teach me, and I cannot get it ever.
Yeah.
One day. I believe in you.
No,
you've given up. No more tries.
I fully believe I will continue to try. I just don't think I'll ever succeed in this one.
That is usually when I go, you know what? I've got 12 other things I want to try anyway, so we're moving on.
Yeah. My experience with the pool, I had a pool table growing up, so I thought I was really good compared to all my friends whenever they came over, but then I played against someone who actually knew how to play, and I got shut down really quick and put in my place. So,
disillusionment.
yeah. I haven't really played ever since then too much, but maybe one day I'll pick it up again.
So going on to the Ghost of Hobbies future, I should say. What are things that you would either like to expand upon from what you're doing now, or brand new things that you haven't tried but you've always had an interest in?
There's a lot of that kind of thing. My husband is really into woodworking. We only have like a few tools right now, but I definitely want to work with him to learn how to do that kind of stuff. Mostly so I can build my own bookshelves. I think that would be a handy skill.
I'm willing to be a guinea pig if you guys want to work on that.
Okay, next time we have some scrap wood lying around, I'll let you know.
I'm all about the reclaimed wood.
I've got a couple that I'm actually super excited about. For 2022, I want to host dinner parties.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Dinner parties or murder dinner parties?
Well, one of them will be a murder dinner party.
Okay.
I've already got the body. That sounded bad. I have someone who volunteered to be the body.
Explain that because
a coworker has volunteered to play the body in a murder mystery at my house eventually.
No one check Ryan's freezer.
I have a theory of who might have volunteered, but I'll ask you later. We're finally finishing up moving into our new house. So we have a lot more space, and I'm just really excited. I like socializing with people, and everyone I work with is super cool. So I want to get to know them better and have them over and have a good time. That sounds really neat.
I'm excited. There's a couple of things I have to do for my house, but we're getting there.
Yeah, we every year host Friendsgiving, and that has given Logan the excuse of learning how to cook a turkey. So he's always in charge of that. I do some of the sides, and then we have friends bring various other sides and desserts. And now he's like, you know what? Thanksgiving isn't enough. We need another annual get-together where I can cook something large and intense.
That absolutely happened to me and my wife, because we love cooking for people, which is kind of where this is the whole dinner party thing is, or house party thing is going from. And yeah, we do, I think, at least 3 or 4 big dinners for our family, just in between holidays, because we just like having everybody get together. And it's hard because there's only 2 of us, so I never get to cook a huge amount of food, and that's when it's fun. Yeah.
Spinning off of that, we have a non-traditional event this time of year. We call it our Super Chinese New Year, because our whole family has been mentioned before, lived in China. And so we've got this connection with a lot of the Chinese holidays and stuff. But it's also right around this time every year that the Super Bowl is happening. And not everybody in the family is into the Super Bowl, but enough of us, for some of us, they really want to watch the game. And for some of us, it's an excuse to just get together. So we do Super Chinese New Year, and we have buffalo wings and Chinese food. And watch the game.
All right.
That honestly sounds like an amazing mix of food.
We really love it. It's something we look forward to every year. And February 1st was actually the beginning of Chinese New Year.
Yeah, I know we had some events going on based around that.
Yeah. One thing I haven't mentioned is that I like to grow things. And I will admit, with my garden, it's on again, off again. One year, I will just really go crazy and grow lots of stuff. And one year, I will not do anything. I will wait and go, yes, and nothing will happen. And so, but that's what I want to expand on. I've put in some raised beds for strawberry bed I'm going to put in this year. And I have some already raised beds that I'm I've got a lot of seeds that in fact, just this weekend, I cleared off a space in my laundry room and put in some grow lights so I can start some seeds indoors so that when the weather's ready, I can start transplanting. And I also grow, this is one thing I do every year, is I grow a lot of herbs and I dry them for tinctures and teas and different things like that. And it's just a lot of fun.
We have a garden we do every year too. Mainly every year we grow sunflowers. If you guys didn't know this, the clay soil is very good for sunflowers because it retains a lot of moisture and sunflowers need a crazy amount of water.
Okay.
So as long as you're more or less on schedule with watering them, like the soil retains enough that they'll grow. But we tried doing indoor seed starting last year, and we have some grow lights that we put under one of our kitchen cabinets. Yep. And then we quickly discovered that the cats were willing to eat every single thing we grew.
Well, we've set up our growing situation in the laundry room, which has a door that closes. And I have dogs, not cats, and they're chihuahuas, so they're not getting up on that counter no matter what. So, although I could see them doing precisely such a thing.
Yeah, I went down the rabbit hole of looking at like a greenhouse with hydroponics and stuff, and I was like, do I want to pull the trigger on it? Is 2022 the year? No.
See, if I was going to pull a trigger on a new hobby, it would be bees. I would get a couple of beehives. I have a spot I've picked out. I even cleaned it up once, and it's just that initial investment into getting the whole setup is pricey. And that is what has kept me from doing it. But I do have a friend who was able to get some really good colonies established and has offered to help me if I can get my setup going. So it may happen. I already have some promised beeswax that someone has cleaned for me that I'm going to be using for some of the balms that I make, or maybe some candles. It all just goes from one thing to the next thing to the next thing.
Beekeeping is something that we've considered too.
Oh yeah.
We have a lot of very grand plans that we can't complete on the, like tiny little city lot that we have. Yes. But what I've heard with beekeeping is that you have to find your local beekeeping community. And a lot of times if people have established colonies, if they start growing, they will just give you bees.
That is pretty much what my friend has said. She's like, because I have said, every year there's kind of a window of time. And it's like you have to have ordered them early enough to get them by spring. And I missed that window like year after year. And so the last time she and I had that conversation, she's like, just let me know when you need bees. I'll get you bees.
I've got a bee guy.
Okay. All right. We'll. So I still I have to re-clean up the spot because it has become overgrown. And I still have to get some hive setups and stuff like that. But I think that in the not too distant future, that might actually come to fruition.
That's very cool. I think I would love to do that, except my wife has an extreme passion for animals that I think would extend to bees. And she would probably name each and every one of them, and we would have to have a bee funeral for every single one that passed. So I'm not willing to commit to that.
Well, one of the things that I like to do, and I've had chickens before, is one of the reasons I like to do that is because I know that I will go out of my way to provide a healthy, humane environment for me. And I bonded with my chickens. I called them my therapy animals because I am so not a morning person, and I'm dragging. But as soon as I would walk in the morning to let them out for the day, I would just start talking to them, and I would just like wake right up, and it just literally shifted on a dime as soon as I went out and started talking to the chickens when I was letting them out for the day.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you for sharing.
And for anyone who's interested in chickens, you are allowed to have chickens anywhere in Evansville. It is written into the city code. You can have up to 6 chickens in your backyard.
Oh, okay.
There are requirements about the size of coop and everything that you have.
I think there may be some limitations on roosters.
Yeah, no roosters is generally the rule.
I'm outside the city limits, so I did not actually have a rooster anyway, but I knew that there was wiggle room for me.
And the only places where you can't have chickens are basically if you have an HOA that says no chickens.
No chickens.
I'm going to go ahead and assume that you're talking about raising chickens.
Yes.
Because I don't think I can bring a chicken into the library.
No, that would not be appreciated.
Okay, don't bring chickens to the library, guys.
Or roosters.
I have never seen them be able to be house trained, so that would not go well.
I think my wife had a chicken that they brought in the house sometimes, but yeah, it didn't stay there.
So all these hobbies we have going on, are there any library programs that might help us find some new hobbies or grow some existing ones?
Well, March the 12th, which is a Saturday at McCullough, we are going to be having a fiber arts demonstration. We've got a spinner and a weaver and someone who does loom knitting. It's not loom as in a weaving loom, but it uses a shaped, well, you'll have to come see, but it creates things like hats and things like that. I believe someone is bringing a sock knitting machine that they have at home and are able to do. And we're going to talk about the different types of materials that are used and the equipment, like a swift. If you want to know what a swift is, not a bird swift, but a fiber related tool, then you can come and see that demonstrated. I hope everybody will come and just go on to our online calendar to find out the time of that event. And then, of course, we have our monthly book discussion group. It's called One More Chapter for we're always on the hunt for the unputdownable book.
Also at McCullough, we have the Sit and Stitch coming up, which is something I think you're planning on attending.
I think I might drop into that. It's not at a time I'm normally at the library, but I mean, that's my jam. So I could see myself coming in for that.
Yeah, a great opportunity to bring in any fiber-based crafts or really any crafts in general and just enjoy some community while you work on your projects. In addition to the Sit and Stitch, we also have an event at North Park, Procrastinitters. So that's another opportunity to go and work on your fiber arts. That next meeting is Tuesday, February 15th.
I also have a program that meets once a month. It's the third Tuesday in the afternoon from 2 to 4. Bullet journaling, for people who that's kind of been a thing for a few years now, but it's a thing that people enjoy. You can design your planner according to your taste, your style, what your personal goals are that might be different than anyone else's, and add your own creative flair to creating it.
I may have to swing by that one because as we record this, I am looking at my notes in my own bullet journal. So definitely something that everyone can get involved in.
Well, it definitely beats the random scraps of paper that we tend to jot things down on.
Oh, yes.
And it helps me to organize those things into one place so that I can forget few less often.
I leave my post-its a little vague on purpose because I like the sense of mystery.
Okay. All right. Life is an adventure. Yeah. I respect that.
We also have some fun teen programs coming up. Teen Gaming at Central on Wednesday the 16th. And a kind of free-for-all creative space meeting at Red Bank on the 16th. You can check out all of these programs as well as our normal book discussions, dance parties, and story times on our website at evpl.org/events.
Finally, we're adding to the podcasting menu, as it were. We have these little short footnote episodes, and we're introducing one that's going to be released monthly called TBR. TBR stands for To Be Read, and it's not going to address only the new books coming into the library, but those new additions to the library that are just waiting to be read or explored or experimented with.
I am greatly looking forward to these since I'm not involved with those recordings, so I will get to hear them with everyone else.
Awesome.
Well, this has been a fantastic time. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jamie.
I'm very happy to be here.
And as always, it is a pleasure hosting with you, Ellen.
Like always.
And thank you to you, listeners, for listening to us today. Check it out at EVPL. If you have comments, suggestions, or would like to suggest a future episode, you can contact us at podcast@evpl.org. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Bye.